All right, what is going on, people? It is good to have you with us here on the podcast, here on Unfiltered. It'll officially go down as episode number 289. You could jump on board 24/7, 365. It is easy. Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast. Artist formerly known as Twitter, X if you will, at Casey Stern. Give me a follow, then get up into the bio and follow through where you may be watching me right now on the YouTube channel. And like and subscribe and tell all your friends and start building as this unfiltered revolution continues. Speaking of which, we are newly on Instagram. You can follow us there for exclusive content at Unfiltered with Casey Stern. We're going to give an unfiltered take today away from baseball, straying back into combat sports and a preview of the greatest card ever assembled. The Avengers have assembled. Well, not all of them. There's no McGregor. Not all of them. We didn't get an Asanya and Dricus Duplessis. We thought we'd get that fight. And not all of them. Khabib and Lesnar and Ronda, and these people are not coming back. But UFC 300 is still, despite the lofty expectations that were too lofty, it is going to deliver. It is just days away, and we are here to break it down. Want to hear your thoughts. What are your takes? Who are your picks? Give them to me in the comments. Let's roll. Speaking of which, we're always rolling here. Thanks to our good friends at Bet Online. Bet Online, your number one source for all your sports betting needs. Latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, basketball, boxing, golf, and more. Bet Online is your fastest and easiest way to get your wagers. They've got live casino and card games. They're all available right now, right from your phone. People, get to the website. How many times I got to tell you? Get to the mobile device and sign up. Get in on the action, because if you use the promo code BELIEVE, it's BLEAV, you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts, as we get started here. And I'm going to get started. We're going to go kind of in order. I'm going to spend most of the time on the main card, getting into some of the fights and some of the conversation. In a grand landscape of this, let's be clear. Dana White put expectations, and if you missed my conversation with Ariel Helwani on this, go back and check it out, including latest on Conor McGregor. Go listen to that pod. Go check it out on YouTube as well. But yeah, as we were discussing, Dana is the one who put all these lofty expectations, and I understand it. I think, all the thoughts and the intentions were in the right place. Got to deliver. 100 was this, and 200 was supposed to be Jones and DC too. And yeah, what's 300 gonna be, right? And I don't think they wanted to land where they landed. It's why they offered Islam Makhachev three different names. It's why they tried to give Leon Edwards in here against him, because nobody wants to see him fight Bilal. Sorry. Remember the name. Nobody seems to. And, here you are where everybody seems to still be having conversations about what's not on there. But if you ever want to depict how good this card is and how legendary this card is, the curtain jerker in the early prelim is Davison Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt. Are you kidding? Talking about two former champions. This one is going to be a banger. The big question here, in brief, in short, and indirect, is, do we still have a chin on Cody Garbrandt? Looked good in his last fight, was tentative in the first win after he kind of tried to start back up on the right track. Looked better in his last fight, was throwing hands. We know that when he's tight in pocket, how successful he can be. But the problem when you go there and you don't have a chin and it gets exposed is he gets knocked the F out and flattened. And we've seen him sent to the shadow realm, if you will, many, many times. Davison Figueiredo is a guy who's got heavy hands. I think this one's going to end ugly. I don't know how early it's going to be. It might be around 2 or 3, but I think it's going to be a TKO Figueiredo over Garbrandt. Bobby Green, Jim Miller, great fight, because it'll be fun. Bobby Green is a good guy for them to give. They wanted to, give Jim Miller a 300 fight and put him on this card, and all the records that he's breaking. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he can take Bobby to his world and get him on the ground and put him in some, because Bobby Green is a guy who, although on the feet, he is dangerous. I'm hoping that Jim Miller pulls this off. I am. But I will say, look, Jalen Turner is nothing to sneeze at. And you go look at Bobby Green's last fights, before that, this is a guy who looked like he was on the right track, having that kind of, I want to put it at Masvidal level, but that end of his career kind of resurgence into, a different stratosphere. And I think Bobby Green's going to have, more ways to be dangerous than Jim Miller, as long as he keeps it on the feet. And I'm going to take Bobby Green in this fight. I'll take him in a decision. Jessica Andrade and Marina Rodriguez. Look, you got to take Andrade here, because as much as she's fought, and it seems like a million times, she's like the Samuel L. Jackson of fighting in terms of him being in every movie, and she's on literally every fight card, and it's too often. Bounced back with a winner last time out. I expected to get another one here. Love the Moicano and Jalen Turner ad to the early prelims. This one is simple. I mean, Moicano on the ground is dangerous. We saw in the Dober fight, though, he can get hit. He's available to get hit. And this is all about, can Jalen Turner keep him at range? I think Jalen Turner's height is going to bother Moicano, and I think it's going to bother him enough to win this fight. I think Moicano is going to have a difficult time getting in on Jalen Turner and getting him down to the ground where he needs to get him. I love Moicano. I love Money Moicano, and you know what he's become and his personality and the persona and everything that he has done to kind of get to that place. But it is going to be really difficult to get inside enough on Jalen Turner with that range, I think, to be able to get him to the ground. So I'm taking Jalen Turner in this one. Who do you have? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious your take. Really excited to see Diego Lopez again. Always fun to watch him fight. Sadiq Youssef is one of the cooler guys in the sport. If you don't follow him on X, you should, or on social media. Lopez is a really interesting guy. I'm taking him in this fight because I just think his trajectory is on the such a path where the UFC is putting him in matchups that they feel comfortable are good matchups for him. And we saw Youssef got off to the great start in that Barbosa fight, and then it went the other direction. Lopez not going to go away early. I think you're going to see a lot of good scrambles in this fight, but the mix of how much better Lopez's striking is than we thought, with that elite level ground game and the BJJ that he's got, I think Lopez is going to pull this off. I'm going to take him by submission over Sadiq Youssef. Holly Holm and Kayla Harrison. Biggest question here is, can Kayla make the weight? If Kayla makes the weight, she's going to win the fight. Love Holly Holm. God bless her. Huge for the sport. Hall of Famer. One of the great combat sports athletes, men or women, that has ever lived. And there is no doubt about that. But she's, 40 years old at this point, well past her prime. Kayla Harrison is a specimen athletically, and if she can make this weight, she is going to win this fight. If she can make this weight, she's going to be a title holder in that division. The only question is, can she make that bantamweight weight? It's 20 pounds lower than she was fighting the last time we saw her in the PFL. And I'm still, until we get to seeing her on the scale, I will yet to believe that we're going to see her successfully on the scale. I mean, she has said in the past, over the last couple of years, when asked about this weight, jokingly, that she can, never get there. She would never. No, there's no way I would ever. 130, no way. 135 pounds. But if she weighs in and she gets there on that scale, she's going to win this fight. She's going to ragdoll Holly Holm around because athletically, now, how much does it sap her if she does make the weight? Can Holly Holm withstand her in the first round to drag her into, rounds 2 and 3 to put her in a position where maybe she gasses out because of the weight cut? It's possible, I think, but it's only about the weight. I mean, if you take it even Steven and you put a Kayla Harrison who is focused and healthy and on, weight and not having an issue with it, she's going to beat Holly Holm, and she might have beaten her 5 or 10 years ago. She's certainly going to beat her at this age. Aljamain Sterling, Calvin Kattar, one of the more interesting fights in the entirety of the card. They clearly could have put this or the Yuri and Rakic fight on the main card instead of the Bo Nickel one, which they did not. Not going to get into that here. It is what it is. They want to put Bo on the main card. A lot of people are going to be watching ESPN on this, especially for UFC 300 on ESPN Plus. You get plenty of ratings. You're going to get plenty of people with eyes on that featured bout between Yuri and Rakic, and they'll be there for most of them because of the type of fights that we just discussed already on this card, which, again, I mean, look, the main event is something more of, and this is the way I've put it, the main event between Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira is more of what you'd like to see on a co-main of a UFC 300. And that's the only thing wrong with it. It is, in addition to the fact that you certainly could say, and you'd be right, that when they robbed Peter to pay Paul and took it away from UFC 301, which is in Brazil, it didn't seem to make much sense or hold much water, considering now you got to have Pantoja against Urseg of all people, and whoever the hell else is going to be on that card, and it's just not good enough. And it's okay. I mean, look, they stacked 298, they stacked 299, you stack 300. You can't stack them all. So 301 going to be what it's going to be, but it would have been what it was going to be with Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill, and hello, and in Brazil, let's go in Rio. You don't have to get Jose Aldo to go come back out of retirement or wherever he was and finish out his contract. And it would be fun to see him. But I'm just saying, let's say what we understand. They took this fight because they everything else failed that they tried to do for 300, and they could have put Connor here, and they didn't want to, and okay, that's fine. Or he wasn't ready, or they thought it was the movie, or whatever the true story is, or they're waiting it out because once he fights, there's only one fight left on the deal. Whatever the story truly is, and only Dana White and Hunter Campbell and that group, Mick Maynard and company, know. But end of day, I mean, the main event is really more of a co-main event. Look at the rest of this card. Calvin Kattar, Aljamain Sterling, fascinating fight. You know, Cater's trying to keep it on the feet. Aljamain Sterling, I love Aljo. I'm a Long Islander. I'm a huge fan of his. I hate that he's gotten shit on for so long. And, you know, some of it to his own doing. He's kind of gotten in his own way where you could tell that he's a really good dude, but then he tries to kind of lean into being a heel, but doesn't really lean in far enough where it fits, and it kind of seems fake, and then it kind of seems corny, and it doesn't work. I'm a huge fan of his personally. They're rooting for him in this fight. Got a New York versus Boston, always fun, regardless or however or whatever sport. But you know, he'd been talking about trying to do to Calvin Kattar what Max Holloway did when he undressed him in that fight. And Aljamain Sterling can't do that, and that can't be the plan. And I hope he's joking. And maybe he's trying to at least give Calvin Kattar, which is not going to work, some sense of security that don't worry, Aljo's going to try and strike with you. Because I don't care. You know, look, Aljo's first time in this weight class. I think he's going to feel strong. And I think that that certainly is going to work with his build. If he could get Calvin Kattar to the ground and put him into his world, and if he puts him in his world, he's going to put him out. And I'm going to say that he's going to do it. Now, I think it's going to take 3 rounds for him to do it. But I think by the time he gets to the 3rd round, probably at one even, one where Kattar gets a little bit more of the advantage on the feet. And, you know, one where you kind of get Sterling, which has happened before, where he rides you, takes the back a little bit, but doesn't do enough damage. And then I think eventually he'll backpack him, and I think he'll submit him. I'm going rear naked choke Sterling in round 3 against Calvin Kattar and a win in his debut. This is a huge fight. If Aljamain Sterling on UFC 300 in his first fight in this weight class can come out with a big win, a convincing win, is he getting a title shot? I don't think so. Would he put himself in a featherweight eliminator? I think he would. I think he would. I think he'd put himself in a spot where, let's say Max Holloway loses to Justin Gaethje, and you have him fight Holloway, and you got Volk fighting Topuria. You want to go that way, or him or Vloyev, or however you want to put it in there. And Volk probably going to get Topuria next and get his rematch, and he deserves to do that whenever that's going to be. But I think so. He's not going to get Ilya, and that would get ugly. But I think if he wins this convincingly, he could put himself, because of the name and all of that, in a title eliminator. I don't think the UFC would be worried about that. They'd build the title eliminator. You could do it on a fight night, even as a main event, because I think they know that Ilya would take him out. They don't have to worry about another run and another reign from Aljamain Sterling as a title holder, which they certainly don't want. Yuri Prochazka, Alexander Rakic. Rakic is a guy you can not underrate. He has skills. He's athletic. He's strong. He's powerful. And a lot of people, because of the injury and the layoff, have forgotten about him. And that, to me, is one of the questions is, you know, has he leveled up during this time off? Is he a guy who is going to look like he can handle what Yuri is going to bring? Because Yuri is so dynamic and so interesting in the way that he kind of goes about his offense. But I look at the way that this whole thing is going to be, and I think for sure, we're talking about a big time battle between 2 guys who both have a chance to be next in line for a title shot. Look, that Yuri fight, when Pereira took him out, I thought you got to give a champion a little bit more. And I know we're always talking about, do the referees wait too long? Do they go too soon? You got to give a little bit more time. I'm curious your take on this, but I thought it was too quick. And I can't remember who it was. I know it wasn't Herb Dean. I can't remember who it was. Was it Goddard? It's usually Goddard in that spot. But I think just a little bit too quick, even though Pereira had him, especially Yuri. You go back to that Glover fight, and I mean, you know, we know Yuri Prochazka, you can put him down. He's impossible to put out, seemingly, and hangs around forever. Both those guys look like they were, as they said in The Princess Bride, Billy Crystal's line, mostly dead in that fight where Prochazka and Glover Teixeira fought. So I didn't think they gave him enough time. But I'm going with Yuri here. Y'all must have forgot. I think he bounces back, gets a big win. Look, shaking off of the injury, the rust, coming back against Pereira, maybe too soon, maybe not the right fight. I think he gets in a better spot here and puts himself in line for a shot at Jamal Hill, which he'll definitely get if Jamal wins, and possibly a shot at a rematch with Pereira. Other things could get in the way of that, possibly, because you got interesting matchups where, Alex, could certainly have. But I think if it's going to be Jamal Hill who wins, then, he wants Yuri. Remember, they had the back and forth. That's how he got the title in the first place. Yuri never lost the belt because of injury. Then Jamal lost it because of injury, and away you go. So I think he puts himself back in line. Let's get in line for the main card. I mean, it's how great this card is. We're 15 minutes in. We have not even gotten to the main card. Your thoughts on 300, your picks, your predictions, want to hear them. Get them to me. Instagram, YouTube, on the channel. Like, subscribe, comment. Get to me on X as well, at Casey Stern. Let's go. Bo Nickel, Cody Brundage. It is this simple. Bo Nickel is on this card, on the main card. 5 fights in, 5 wins in, 5 finishes in, because they are building him and because they know what they have. And because they have the possibility of amazing fights in the future. U.S. versus Russia, which is not really that. But you get Bo Nickel against Hamzat Chimaev, which is a fight down the road that is going to be massive at some point as those two build. And one that you would love to see because of the styles that they have. Cody Brundage had that slam knockout in his last win. He's got a couple of wins in a row. He's got some power. As long as Bo Nickel doesn't get caught and do something stupid and foolish, he's going to win this fight. I think Brundage is going to get out of the first round, and I think it's going to go 2 and maybe surprise some people. But he's gritty. I think he's going to get through round 1, and in round 2, I think Bo Nickel will finish him ground strikes, ground and pound TKO. But I'm gonna say it's gonna get into the second round. The one thing about Bo Nickel, and he's calculated, he's smart, he's an athlete who has been at the highest level, which is why people don't understand the stuff that he's gone through and all the times that he has been in a spotlight that may be new to you if you're not a wrestling fan, but he certainly has been. The pressure's not going to bother him. But he still is fairly new in this sport, and anybody can get caught. Okay? GSP got caught by Matt Serra. Anybody can get caught. And Brundage has some pop. And Cody Brundage knows he got to avoid getting to the ground. He's got to keep Bo Nickel on the feet, and he's going to think he can expose him because he's going to think that Bo is not going to be as sharp or crisp as his strikes are going to be. And he may be right. If Bo Nickel gets caught, I wouldn't be shocked. And by the way, I don't think that means that if that happens, that he doesn't have a great career. It's just a setback. The Joe Pyfer loss that he just had a couple of months ago, not the end of his world either. But Bo Nickel got to be afraid that he doesn't get caught in these fights because he's too overly aggressive trying to get takedowns. And when he comes in, get caught with a knee or get caught with a hand, and then all of a sudden get rocked. We haven't seen him get rocked yet. I'd like to see him in some adversity. I don't know if that'll happen, but I think he gets a win in round 2. Now the fights just get crazy. Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan. If you are looking at the fights that are going to be the most interesting, the most technical, okay? Gaethje and Holloway is the best fight on this card, and I think everybody knows it. But I think if you're a fighter's fighter, as they would say, and you're a diehard of the sport and you just want to watch talent levels at off the charts pace in terms of skill sets, this is the fight on the card in its entirety that you want to watch. Charles Oliveira is a guy who is, at times when he is not doing the right things, too risky, too aggressive, and he pays for it. But he's never out of fights. He's an unbelievable finisher. And the crazy part is he's got hands for days that could finish you on the feet and put you out. And then you almost forget that his strength is on the ground. Arman Tsarukyan is a guy who's a wrestler. He's also a striker, as we've seen. I think he will try and utilize kicks and keep Oliveira at distance here. This is going to be a really exciting fight. We might have some fun scrambles in this bout. This is going to be a really exciting fight. And I'm going with, and I haven't seen the odds recently, but everybody, look, I know Arman, and I'm with it, right? Everybody, Arman Tsarukyan, Shavkat Rakhmonov, those guys are the guarantees to be champions who aren't champions, and everybody seems to be there. But I'm going with the all must have forgot. And I'm taking Charles Oliveira. A lot of people were picking Beneil over him, and he just buried Beneil. Charles got hit in that fight. He's going to get hit in this fight. That's the crazy part about Charles Oliveira. He can get caught. He's going to get hit. He's going to go into the fire. But this dude is a big game player. That is what he's always been. It is amazing to watch how he elevates to the next level when the spotlight is at the brightest. Nobody is a big, and you talk about star quality and it factor. If he spoke English, it would be at the level in this country that it is where he is at home in Brazil and nearly everywhere else. He is a star, and stars shine in championships and in finals and in the NCAA tournaments and the Stanley Cup finals and all the right, the US Open and whatever sport it is. This is UFC 300. And he's going to shine again, taking Oliveira to win by knockout. I just got a feeling that this is going to be, because you look at it, he got hurt in sparring, right? Lost the fight that he had where he would have gotten back to Islam, and everybody thought, well, he shouldn't even be fighting Islam again. It should be Gaethje. And now you got Poirier in the mix for that because Gaethje and Holloway are fighting, which we'll get to. And everybody seems like, nobody even mentioning Charles is ever going to get that fight because everybody thinks that Islam maybe fight one of these guys and then next he's going to go after Leon's belt. So it might be 2 years before Sarukian fights him if he wins this fight. But I think Charles Oliveira is going to win this fight. And I think this is a guy who is still very, very determined to prove that his reign ended when he didn't show up as himself, as he sort of put it, paraphrasing, in that bout that he lost to Islam. Gaethje Holloway. I hate picking this fight. If you ask me my favorite 5 fighters in the UFC over the last decade, these are 2 of them. I mean, who doesn't love these guys? The others for me would be Poirier, Volkanovski, and then probably Izzy. But Gaethje and Holloway, they are BMFs. Whether you think the title means anything or doesn't, and it's probably closer to doesn't, if we're being fair. These are the guys that you watch fight because they're not only strikers and grapplers and all the different techniques, they are fighters. These are guys who are going out there to win. They're going out there to put on a show. They're going out there to finish. Gaethje coming at a head kick knockout win over Dustin Poirier. He should be fighting Islam next. This is a mistake to fight Max Holloway. Not because I don't think he's going to win, because I'm picking Gaethje to win. But it's a mistake to fight Max Holloway because I think Oliveira is going to win. And then it's going to be, well, does Oliveira fight Islam next? Does Gaethje fight Islam next? Oh, wait, Poirier is going to fight Islam next, probably in June before either of these guys are ready because no way Gaethje or Holloway or Oliveira or Sarukian in those battles, I think, going to be ready. Better chance Oliveira, maybe like an early submission or something, or Sarukian even, early submission possibly. In this battle, neither of these guys going to be ready. If Holloway thinks he's getting a title shot, he's not going to be ready for that before Poirier would be. And probably not before Charles. So this whole thing is going to be convoluted. But this fight in itself, when you take away BMF, which is fine, it's fun, and you take away should they be fighting and should they be, should Holloway be waiting for Topuria now if Volk isn't ready and, finally get back in and get his shot at the crown of featherweight, and should Gaethje be fighting in June against, all those answers are true. And I don't know how much money they offer these guys, but when they were desperate in UFC 300, probably a lot. Because I will tell you, if you look at this entire card and say, which one fight could you not take off this card? If you looked at this card and said, which one fight can you not take off this card? Because it would change the course of the way you looked at the rest of the card in its entirety. It is this fight between Gaethje and Max Holloway. The UFC 300 card is amazing, regardless of all the expectations and maybe Dana putting it at too high and the fact that a main event between Pereira and Hill probably should be a co-main event or should have been at UFC 301. It's an amazing card. But the only fight, the only one that stands alone, that if you took this fight off the card, now you got real problems with UFC 300. It's not even the main event. It's Gaethje Holloway. It is the BMF title. It is 2 of the best fighters in the world in the last decade plus, and 2 of the most fun fighters who have ever gotten in the octagon. And it is going to be bananas. Crazy. Can't wait. But I'm taking Gaethje. And I think in this fight, we're going to see Max stop for the first time. Gaethje's just done a different kind of a role. This has been something where we've seen this kind of elevation for him. And you watch the work with Trevor Whitman. And if you've been watching on his YouTube, he's posted videos. And look, I think Max is a bigger man than anybody really realizes. Who this weight is not going to be. It's the way he put on the weight, as he said in the Poirier fight go back years ago. I think he's put it on better. I think this is a fight he wants. I think he gets him excited. There's nothing negative I have to say about Max, but this is more about Justin Gaethje. And I think as technical as Max is, he's gonna cut Justin up for sure. Justin Gaethje gonna be bloodied. He's gonna batter him. He's gonna win rounds. But Gaethje's got that one punch power. That one of the reasons. Now look, Holloway survived Dustin Poirier. He's fought some killers, some guys who really got power. But there's something about Gaethje right now. And as he said and put it, and if you listen to the countdown, he said, nobody better than me, or something to the effect of nobody better than me at damage and inflicting damage. And he's right. And I think he's going to be the first ever to put Holloway down. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's just a great fight and it comes to a decision and both guys hug and it is what it is and go on their merry ways back to the titles they should have been going for in the first place. But I think Gaethje's going to put him down and be the first one to do it, I think. Weili Zhang and Yan Chaonan, I'm going to be real short on. This is a fight that should have happened in China. It is happening here, and it is, I think, great to have these two women fighting each other for what it means, even beyond the fact that it is a strawweight championship fight, and it'll be the co-main. But Weili Zhang, outside of Rose Namajunas, is untouchable. The way she looked the last time out and how dominant and how focused she is, Yan Chaonan has really, really improved. She's done a great job with Uriah Faber and Alpha Male in that team. But there is no way that Weili Zhang is losing this fight. And throw apples and tomatoes and make fun of me if I'm wrong. If you disagree, I'd love to know why. But I'm taking Weili Zhang in this fight. Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill. This is fascinating because we don't really know who Jamal Hill is yet. We know he's got terrific power. We know he's a better athlete than maybe people get him credit for that he looks. We know he's tough. But he beat a Glover Teixeira who was 43 years old at the time. And what the hell does that mean? I have no idea. Neither do you. We really don't know, if we're being fair. We don't. We know what Alex Pereira is. We know how many champions he's put out. We know what he just did to Yuri. We know what he's done to Izzy. We know how dangerous he is when he touches you. If Jamal Hill cannot find a way to get Pereira on skates and they go toe-to-toe, which Jamal Hill says he wants to do, I just don't think he wins this fight. Now, I don't know if he's going to do that. Maybe his game plan is not what it seems. And he's not a takedown artist by any stretch. But if you put Alex Pereira on his back, Jamal Hill absolutely has enough wrestling to go ahead and grind him out and ground and pound and then use his power there, at least to slow Pereira down early in the fight, then play on the feet. But if you're going in there trying mano a mano to sit there with some ego ploy, as it seems he is, and maybe it's not going to be the case, and just go one-on-one and say, I'm just going to strike with as good a kickboxer as there's ever been in the UFC, and a guy who has just knockout hands and feet, I think is a major mistake. And I don't think anybody doing it that way and just getting in the fire with Alex Pereira is going to end up in a good spot. So I'm taking Pereira to win the fight. Who do you have winning the main, the co-main, the undercard? Hello, the curtain jerker is Figueiredo and Garbrandt. Are you freaking kidding me, UFC 300? You have done your job, UFC, and we are not worthy. I can't wait. Want to hear your picks, your thoughts, Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast. Jump on board and get to us on the YouTube channel, Unfiltered with Casey Stern. Get to us on Twitter at Casey Stern. Jump up and find the YouTube channel, or you can hit us on Instagram at Unfiltered with Casey Stern, where we, as always, are presented by our good friends at Bet